Okay, just open it up by saying, having a chance to look through the film, meet with the guys, good team victory. We talked about really good complementary football. In all three phases, you could see how it all worked together as we went through the flow of the game, the plays that are made, and how it all factors into, winning a hard-fought, tight football game. So just as a follow-up, the game balls that were issued were on offense. It went to Bryce and Mingo and Thielen and Tommy Tremble. On defense, it went to Frankie Louvu, Derek Brown, and Dante Jackson. And on special teams, it went to Eddie Pinheiro, Boodle, and Barno. So I'll open it up from there.
What does a victory Monday look like for you guys now that one's in the book?
It's the same thing, and we talked about that in there. I mean, Monday film review is the same win or lose. We talk about be the same guy. We talk about come in here with. We understand that the mood's going to be a little different after a win than it is after a loss, but the mindset is have an obsession to get better. So everything you do, watch the film, study the film, be critiqued, don't take it personal. Coaches and players be obsessed about getting better.
Frank, I asked you previously about your points of excellence and where you felt you were as far as reaching those. What would you say about that now?
I think we're making strides. I think you can see it, on offense. I think you can see it in, fewer penalties, fewer turnovers. I think the execution is getting better and better. We still have to eliminate mental errors that are hurting us. I think defensively, same thing. We got back to, we played good run defense. We did a good job of limiting their explosive passes. But same thing there. We got to just continue to find ways for us to take a next step. It's going to be eliminate mental errors. That's a big next step for us.
Right. What happened on the 4th and 2? Adam suggested maybe he didn't get the play communicated to Miles. Did Miles run the wrong route?
Yeah, there was a miscommunication, and so hats off to Adam. Hats off to Adam for, because you're breaking out, expecting the ball on time, and then all of a sudden you see Miles running at you, and it could be a big time distraction, to both Adam and to Bryce throwing it. And but Adam had great concentration, was still able to make the play.
The offensive line gave up, I think, 5 sacks. What are you seeing from that unit, and more specifically, Ickey, while watching tape?
I thought a couple of the sacks. Certainly, the protection can be better, but I thought a couple of the sacks, the protection was good, and they were coverage sacks. They were probably 2 or 3 of those. I would put it more in the category of coverage sacks. That we got to do a better job of giving patterns as coaches, giving a better pattern where guys are getting open, and then the receivers need to do their job to get open. So I thought a couple of them were coverage sacks, and they're a good defense. So they got some good rushers, but there were plenty of times, and when we just went in there and watched the film, there are plenty of times where the pocket is clean and good. So we have a lot of positive things to build off of as well.
What about Ickey? What are you seeing from Ickey?
Hey, Ickey's a great player. He had 1 or 2 struggles in the past game, but same thing. He's like every other player on the team. There was a couple bad plays, and there were a lot of good plays. We're confident in Ickey and the player that he is. So we'll learn from it and get better.
Frank, to circle back to Joe's question about that 4th down play, when a player is in a slump like Miles has, he's been very accountable for it with us. What do you have to do to kind of get them out of that slump?
I think it happens a couple different ways. One thing is feed him the ball. You can feed him get him some touches, and then sometimes it's just a question of, as a player, hey, even if it's limited touches, I got to make the most of what touches I get and what plays I'm in. We have a lot of confidence in Miles. Chuba's getting the bulk of the carries right now with the way our run game is going, and he's a more physical downhill runner. But Miles is a great player, and so we want to continue to mix it up. Sometimes I've just seen this happen before, where it feels like an eternity to Miles, but in actuality, a 2 or 3 or 4 game stretch will feel like an eternity to the player. But over the course of the season, it can turn. It's not guaranteed to turn, but it can turn. So we'll continue to rotate those guys through.
Follow-up question with Hayden, and we saw his snaps get cut significantly. Is that a Thomas Brown, like, fit type of deal with him?
No, that's just more rotation, more credit to Tommy's playing good football. And we love Hayden. Hayden's playing good football, but Tommy, listen, this is the thing as a coach. We love all of our players, and it's earned every week. Just because you're named the starter at the beginning of the year doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to get all the reps and get all the touches as it goes. This is a meritocracy. That's the business that we live in, and for all of us, we're accountable for it day by day. And so, but I'm happy that we have the guys we have. Hayden's a really good player, and Tommy's playing well also.
Frank, what impressed you the most about Thomas's calls on the final drive?
Just the poise, even that the third down call, we had a second to talk about it, between he had a pass in mind and a run, and just the way he processed through that very quickly. And, I thought the mix on the last drive was good. He was comfortable with it, felt poised. I think there was a good it's a 15-play drive, 80-some yards, using up 6 minutes and 17 seconds. So that was just a well-executed drive. Obviously, the players first and foremost get the credit, but I thought Thomas called it perfectly.
I think your presentation of the game ball to Thomas Brown after the game, you could see the emotion coming from you in that moment. Why is that?
Because, when you believe in somebody, and when you believe in somebody and you put those hours in, that's raw. That's just raw emotion. So, no apologies for that.
Frank, when you mentioned last week that Austin coming back would add something to that offensive line. Having gone back and looked at it, what do you think it meant to the offense as a whole, and Austin in particular, to come back and play and have it turn out that way?
I just think it speaks to, Austin, his character. I think it speaks to the respect that he has on the team. I just think he steps into the huddle, he steps in the locker room, guys look to him as a leader, as a playmaker, as a difference maker on the field. So, man, it's sure good to have him back and continue to build, with him being right in there at the center of things for us.
Frank, speaking of mixing things up, it seems like defensively the strategy kind of changed. You guys were primarily a shells coverage team. You played a lot of single high yesterday. You also got the 2 rookies involved. What, during the bye week, kind of led to maybe that change in attack, or was it mostly based on the Texans?
I think the way, going into the game, it was really going to be a mix of coverage from shell and middle field closed. And then as the game goes on, right, it gets situationally, the continuum can flow from one to the other. I thought EJ and the staff did a phenomenal job of really accomplishing our objectives. We knew that team had struggled running the ball a little bit, but we didn't want to give them any life in the run game. They gained some yards, but 3.7 a carry, we thought we got mission accomplished. So I thought EJ just mixed up the calls to get what he wanted there. And then we did want to eliminate their explosives in the pass, so get in shell coverage at the right times. That's the key. How do you call it as a play caller on defense? I thought EJ had the right touch.
Frank, in about 26 hours, the trade deadline is coming up. Where do you kind of foresee this team being right now as that approaches? Do you feel like you may be in a selling mode, a buying mode, or neither?
I had a brief conversation with Scott within the last 24 hours, of just some phone calls that he was taking. I actually plan on sitting down with him, this afternoon sometime to see if anything else has come up. Again, I was just focused on Houston, so I don't know. I've learned in these situations, trust the GM. He's leading that process. He'll do a great job. He'll pull me in when needed. We'll have some conversations later today to see if anything's come up in the last 24 hours that's worth talking about. And sometimes it does, and then sometimes things fizzle out. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Frank, you talked about the great job Thomas did yesterday. Well, what was it like for you personally to stand there and not be doing what you're used to doing for much of your career?
It was hard, but I was proud of myself in this, that I wasn't questioning calls. Like sometimes, I really felt confident in the way he was calling it, and it just felt, and I, just continue to try to engage at different levels with all three phases, and certainly in the game management thing. And I can see how it was a good feeling. I liked the feeling. It was different, but I really liked the feeling and feel like I'm going to be able to continue to grow in that mode of how I can contribute to, helping the team, not just during the week, but on game days in that role.
Were there particular things you saw that you kind of thought, okay, if I'm calling plays, I don't see that, I don't notice that?
No, I think like there weren't a whole lot of big situational things that came up in this game, but a couple of the 2-minute drives, because I'm not calling it, I'm able to think a few plays in advance, and I'm talking to our analytics guys up top, on the other line, when normally I'd be talking to Thomas and, about play thoughts and stuff like that. So we're able to kind of work through a couple, and like there in the last 2-minute drive, that 2-minute drive we had before the half, even though it didn't go anywhere, for instance, we had kind of sequenced out something. If we hit this big one, what if this and what if that? We were able to kind of talk that through in a way that I thought made a lot of sense. Now, we didn't hit it the way we wanted to, but I could see where that's going to pay dividends.
Rick, I don't know that we asked you about the team's decision to give Terrace permission to seek a trade. What went into that decision?
I think Terrace's agent, approached Scott and said, we'd like to explore. And Scott, we talked it through, and we have a lot of respect for Terrace, and I think Terrace is a good player, and at times has played a significant role for us. But again, in the spirit of always keeping all options open, Scott gave his agent permission to go ahead and see what was out there.
And looking at the tape,
One more.
that sequence at the end, it looked like a fake icing to me, icing the kicker. What did you see at the end regarding that, and how do you kind of handle those situations going into future?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question, because I would say this, that, I'm not one to impute motives, right? I don't want to impute motives. But I would say this, that if a team, forget what just happened in this game, but I would just say in general, I do think that's crossing a line that is not meant to be crossed. And personally, that's just my personal opinion. Others might disagree. I understand, because as a head coach, there are modes where we'll tell a guy, there are certain tricks that you tell a guy to get a jump on the snap. But when it happens repeatedly like that, you just wonder what's being said. And again, I'm not imputing any motives, but for teams that do that intentionally, for me, and just my taste, I just think that's probably not what the league is looking for. But I can't speak for the league, so.
As a team, do you guys, I know you have grievances that you go to the league about, is that something that you go to the league regarding?
Sure, you can voice your opinions on that, and there's a time and a place for that, but right now there's no rule against what was going on, right? So there's no rule against it, so you've got to play with it, and I thought our guys did a great job. I thought the way Eddie kind of kept his poise and just didn't let anything get to him, and just they were kind of laughing about it out there, and then just knocked through the game winner.
Last one. As somebody who's on the competition committee, can you explain how it makes sense for those to be dead ball penalties and not a decision by the team that makes the field goal?
Well, the one that went through, it's the whole unevaded to the quarterback. Because he was unevaded, they're saying when a defender comes across the line of scrimmage unevaded, they're going to shut the play down no matter what happens. So, we've seen that play out in the passing game, and it's just the same way playing out in the kicking game.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.